pitch it back. Jacobs, 8 seconds left. Looking to the sideline. He's there with 5 seconds on the clock.
Love slow getting off the field. Is still down.
And he is in major pain. Will be helped off the field here in Brazil. They had 2 players down. The immediate concern for their quarterback, but their center, Josh Myers, was also slow to get up and is hobbling towards the sideline. Meanwhile, the backup quarterback is Malik Willis, who they just traded for August 26th.
Definitely a sloppy game, I think, from us. I think there was some uncharacteristic things that we did as a staff, quite frankly, and that trickled down to our players.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
That's just one small piece of a much larger comment that was part of a full press conference from Matt LaFleur after Friday night's game. But I cut it out and I isolated it and I put it in the intro tonight because it just bothers me. It just bothers me. I really like Matt LaFleur. I think I like Matt LaFleur more than most people in my position. And in my position, I mean like Wisconsin sports talkers, opinionists, talk show hosts, podcast, in this space. I think I like Matt LaFleur just about as much as anybody. I think I like him the appropriate amount. I don't think I'm sitting here claiming every day that he's the best coach in the NFL, but I like Matt LaFleur, and I think, less likely to get on his case than many are. That's one thing that he does that drives me up a wall. I hate it when he comes to the podium after a game and does the revisionist history or goes back and says, well, actually, last week we were doing some things. Says, well, then don't do those things. You know what I mean? We did, as a staff, I did something, thinking back at it, looking back at it. Well, then don't do those things. Matt, when you do a thing, ask yourself, would a bad coach do this thing? And if the answer is yes, then don't do that thing. I hate it. And he gave a follow-up to that comment in his presser a half hour ago. I'm going to play it for you here in a moment. It was a great question by Andy Herman. It was the number one thing on my list. I always think when I watch Matt LaFleur pressers, if I was there, what would I ask? And that was the first thing on my mind. Matt, after the game, you said that you and your staff did some things that were uncharacteristic and it trickled down to your players. What were those things? And God bless Andy Herman because he asked. And Matt LaFleur was actually kind of indicating, he was hinting at something that I didn't think he was indicating at. So I'll back off my criticism a little bit, but I hate it when he does that. I absolutely hate it when he does that. Well, last week, in our practice, in our preparation, we could have been better. Well, then address that last week. Don't play like crap or coach like crap. And I don't think they played like crap. I think there were some shortcomings on Friday night, coaching and playing. I don't think it was a disaster, but pick out those things the week before. Pick out those things during the game and address them in real time. Don't get up on the podium and say, well, now that I think about it, well, now it's too late. The game's over. So that's a comment from Friday night. Matt LaFleur, speaking with the media, gets into tonight's show. Packers lose in Brazil. Jordan Love got hurt. And since Friday, we've come to learn that he sprained his MCL. He's going to miss a couple of weeks. 3 or 4 weeks seems like it's the prognosis. So that's where we begin the show. Where do the Packers go from here? And of course, it's the first time that we've had a chance to talk since Friday night's game. So we're going to talk about that as well. It's the Wisco Sports Show. My name is Grant Bills. Would love to talk with you on the phones tonight. I always love shows after a Packer game, especially one that's close and especially one that has people hot and bothered. And I think there are a lot of different ways that you can go with Friday night's game. I think in that loss that was sloppy and clunky and there were penalty flags everywhere and players literally were tripping and slipping all over themselves, I think there's a lot of good, but it's harder to celebrate the good and it's hard to talk about the good and the silver linings knowing that you had an opportunity to bank a win going into now a stretch without your starting quarterback. And it's going to get much harder to win games now that Jordan Love is on the sideline. So it is a real twisted math problem of a talk show tonight that we have. But I'm excited, and I want to hear from you. 608-321-1670. I'll go to you in just a couple minutes. If you're ready, you can text, call, you can comment on the live stream, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube up and running. You can tweet on the or tweet at me at Wisco Grant as well. This is Andy Herman's follow-up today, just so we can address what Matt LaFleur said in the intro. I don't just want to play that comment for you, bash Matt LaFleur and move on. this is the question and answer, or I guess the answer to Andy Herman's question. Matt, you mentioned things that you did as a staff that were uncharacteristic. What were those things? Here's Matt LaFleur.
Well, I think, it was evident on the first drive when we get called with 12 on the field, when we try to hurry up and catch them with 12 on the field. We can't sub in that situation. And we try to do a good job of holding our subs, but certainly, we got to see the huddle. I think there was some communication on the headsets, and I'm not saying, everything's important that we do, in my opinion. You never know. The game is just, the margin of error in our league is so small. So every mistake, whether it's execution or communication, whatever it may be, can cost you. And there was a couple things that happened, more so on the headset, and specifically at the end of the game. The kickoff is a great example where I was upset with communication. So I put that always on myself, and how can I be better and make sure that we clearly articulate what we're trying to get done, and so we don't put ourselves in those situations.
So that answer from today, and the question from Andy Herman, Pack-A-Day Podcast, friend of Network, was directed towards a comment that Matt LaFleur made after the game. When Matt LaFleur made that comment, I thought he was talking about the week of preparation. As coaches, we did things. It's like, wait, I thought you were confident in your plan and you were feeling great, and that was communicated in your media availability on Wednesday and on Friday, once you got her on Thursday, I suppose, once you got down to Sao Paulo. And I guess Matt LaFleur was like, well, I messed some things up in the game with substitutions. And, I guess I didn't remind my top dollar special teams coordinator that the kick returner shouldn't run it out if it's 8 yards deep. I guess I gotta remember to tell him, because despite his reputation and his paycheck, he needs to be reminded of such things. So I just wanted to go full circle. If I want to play that comment in the intro, I want to play the follow-up as well. Good job, Andy Herman, asking that question. I was at a wedding on Friday night. I didn't see any of the game live. Venue had very poor service, so I really couldn't even refresh Twitter. I was following the score, but that's about it. I got caught up on Saturday and then spent most of the day on Saturday refreshing Twitter, like all of you, waiting for the Jordan Love update. I think Friday night's game elicited a lot of emotion, and that's fine. I'm not going to tell you how to fan. I'm not going to tell you to calm down and be rational. No, fandom is emotional. Fan, we often forget, is short for fanatic. People forget that. But as much as possible, I think today, as we talk about this game and as we talk about where the Packers go forward, we got to take a little bit of the emotion out of our analysis, because I think it can take us down some misleading paths if we're in the same headspace today that we were on Friday night. Because I've listened to some other shows today, not on this network. I thought Ebo was tremendous today. I thought Bill was spot on today. But I spin the dial. I keep an eye and keep an ear on shows and talkers all over the state. And some other shows just were driving me nuts today. Like, point number one, and I'll be brief here because I want to get to the phones. We got to get over the international thing. We got to get over it. The international games are here to stay. So stop complaining. Well, the travel. Look, UWL, I was just reading this afternoon, eating my lunch. They traveled 18 hours on a bus to upstate New York. They whooped that team. And I understand this D3 football is not a conference game. It was probably a little unbalanced, but teams travel. And unlike Division III athletes, like these guys, Matt LaFleur talked about the plane in his presser today. It was super nice. Everyone was able to lay down. It was huge. We're not sending our 85-year-old grandmother to Bakersfield on a school bus, okay? They're big boys. There's lots of money. There's lots of resources at stake. How these players got turned into martyrs, I'll never understand. Oh, they got to go to London. Oh, they got to go to Sao Paulo. The time change was 2 hours. It's nothing. So I get over it. You don't have to like that they're sending games nationally, I guess, like unless you're worried about the economy of Philadelphia losing a game. If you worry about such things, fine. I don't care. I thought the atmosphere was cool. It was a cool game. I'm not going to feel bad for teams when they have to travel internationally. So I would like to leave that out of tonight's show. Another thing, the field, it was slick. It was frustrating to watch. I think both quarterbacks were questioning their footing by the end of the night, and I think that really hampered their ability to be accurate. I saw some people indicating today as they went back and watched the film, they're like, we can't even really do much with this film because the field was so slick. That's real grass. That happens. Sometimes it's humid. Sometimes it's damp, right? And then last night, everyone was complaining, well, Ford Field, everyone's getting hurt. Okay, so there's problems with turf. There's problem with grass. Maybe the conditions at every game are different, and it's just on the teams to adjust and to make good with it. I know it's frustrating. I would have rather had ideal conditions, but that's not always how football is played. Even indoors, even on turf, guys get hurt. It's a problem, right? I don't think the turf affected the hands of the Packers wide receivers. That was the number one issue that I saw. Dropped passes. If the Packers just catch the ball, they win that game. I don't think it impacted Matt LaFleur's ability to coach, substitute, make decisions on fourth downs. So the turf was annoying, but I don't think it played a role in this game and the result of this game. It didn't hamper either team's ability to win this game, so I'm not going to bitch about it, just like I'm not going to bitch about travel. And last thing, before we take a couple calls here before our first break, Ron Torbert and the referees, yes, they were doing too much. NFL referees always do too much, and it was annoying. Only in the NFL do they seemingly have meetings on ideas to be able to throw more flags. Like, hey, how do we find a way to throw more flags? Let's get ticky-tacky about how offensive linemen are aligned. And I think the offensive line alignments needed to be addressed. I think last year, the way the Chiefs were lining up, the way certain teams were lining up, like it's like a horseshoe. They need to be on the line. Let's address it. But throwing 30 flags a week until teams adjust, that's not the way I would have done it because it hurts the product. But again, only in the NFL do referees and the league seemingly sit down and come up with ways to throw more flags. I get it. It's annoying. But again, did the flags affect the Packers wide receivers' ability to catch? No, I don't think so. Or Matt LaFleur's ability to substitute and do other things? No, it was annoying. But between the travel and the field and the refereeing, I just want to talk about football. Football's back, and I don't want to spend the first week bitching about things that I really don't think prevented the Packers from winning. They had opportunities to win that game. They didn't take advantage. 608-321-1670. Let's take a call or two, and then we'll zoom towards our first break. Wisco Sports Show. Let's go to line number one. Who's this?
Denny from Holman.
Denny from Holman. Denny, I am thrilled to hear from you today. I thought of you yesterday as I saw Van Ginkel running.
Van Ginkel.
Yeah. Andrew Van Ginkel. I thought of you yesterday. It was the first thing that came to mind.
Dude, and remember I told you he was a free agent and the Packers wouldn't even look at him.
Yeah, I remember. You're the number one Andrew Van Ginkel fan.
Yeah. So anyway, here's the way I saw it, okay?
Okay.
It's like every year we hear the same story. The Packers defense is new, they're improved. We had a new coach. What I saw that Friday night was the same old story we always see. They missed tackles. The runners are getting 5 and 6 more yards after being hit. They were left alone catching passes with no defender in the area. And their advice is we have to clean things up. Well, I hope it doesn't take all year because, you know, I think it showed that Love wasn't on the practice field. If he would have been more interested in his less with his contract and more in getting time with his receivers, it showed. It definitely showed.
I think the wide receivers could have done a little bit more to help him out. I think,
right. I agree.
And another thing, and what's kind of a bummer, I wish Jordan Love was healthy, and we were just talking about this like a normal game, but the cloud of Love's injury kind of sticks with us as we talk about this game. Jaden Reed looks like a star. He looks like a superstar, Denny. He looks awesome, but Wicks left a little bit to be desired, and there were drops, a lot left to be desired. And I think if these Packers wide receivers and defensive backs just catch the ball on Friday, they win this game.
Right. And you know, when you have two gimmies, like a pick and a fumble recovery,
yep,
you should at least get 10 points out of it, if not, 14.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, Denny. And so I wanted to take a couple calls before our first break because I kind of wanted to gauge what do we want to talk about. And Denny first went with the defense. He did a really good job kind of hitting on everything, but he first went with the defense and said it looks like the same old product. Jeff Hafley's scheme, the way that he called this game and the way they aligned, is actually a little bit more similar to Joe Barry than I expected. That might be, well, first, that might be matchup dependent. Second, that might not be the worst thing in the world. Like, Joe Barry's scheme is what a lot of other teams run, and it's run with great success. If Jeff Hafley can come in and run a lot of the same things, but add his fingerprint, like, he doesn't need to come in and completely flip and swip the defense. Is it flop and swap, right? He doesn't need to change absolutely everything. The tackling was an issue. I think the turf impacted that. The grass impacted that. There were things that's impacted by the grass. It's making it harder to look at the film and to look at certain things. Not that I'm watching all 22. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not breaking down the film. But it is hard to really get a good grasp on some things that took place in this game just because of how slick it was. But since you brought up Jeff Hafley, that's probably where we'll go after this first break, Denny. I have some schematic things that I wrote down today to kind of help better understand the way he ran his defense relative to the way that Joe Barry ran it. A lot of similarities, but there are some differences that are worth talking about. So we'll do that after the break. But first, one more call. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Bon dia.
Bon dia, Cone Roller. What's going on?
Love that Denny and Holman led the show off. I immediately thought of him as well after I saw that Vin Ginkel pick six.
What a legend.
And just side note, great weekend for Badger linebackers in the NFL. Great weekend.
Yeah. Yes. TJ Edwards was great. Nick Herbig with the steal. I mean, God, TJ Watt, obviously. But you're right. And I think I saw a tweet today that 5 Badger linebackers across the league all went 5-0 in week 1. I can't remember them all. I'll try to find it.
Zach Vaughn killed us,
That's
the Packers.
Right. Yep.
I mean, just incredible. Agree also with Denny that a lot of this I thought could have been worked out in preseason with the starters playing games. I mean, they're paid to be the starters, I guess not in the preseason. So like when LaFleur goes up to the press conference being like, oh, our communication, our substitutions were bad. Well, Matt, you only had 3 weeks to figure that out leading up to week 1, didn't you?
So this is why we did a full day on this, Cone. Okay. And I know you're not, but you can't put this on this show. I see so many people after the Packers lose in week 1 who are like, well, this is why you need to play in preseason. Okay. Well, I opened this show as a forum for almost a full 2 hours, 2, 3, 4 weeks ago to discuss this. And Conan, I know it's not you because you're plugged in and you're on top of these things, but Packers fans they're all silent during preseason. No, we don't want to get our guys hurt. And then the second they lose in a shootout that it was close to a coin flip game in week 1, we get all pissed. Everyone all of a sudden is pissed that no one played in preseason. So that bothers me a little bit with some fans, but not you, Cone, because I know you've been on this. And I, for the most part, agreed. Like, I don't mind when the starters play a little bit.
Yeah, agreed. Good point. Jair owes A.J. Brown a Father's Day present next year. I mean, just absolutely babied him.
I mean, A.J. Brown's really good. I thought Jair made some nice plays. And I'll be the first to say it. I didn't really mind him bringing the ball out of the end zone. He almost got it to the 20. It was a difference of like 3 yards. And everyone's crushing him today like he, was tackled on the 1. In fact, I saw tweets at the wedding. It's like, oh, what did Jair do? And then I went and watched the highlights. Like, oh, he's trying to make a play. He basically got out to the 20 anyways. Jair, it's the nature of the cornerback position. Going to make some plays, going to get cooked on other plays. And A.J. Brown is incredible. So while I would like Jair to maybe be a little bit more buttoned up here and there, I'm probably going to be more gracious with him today than most. Because I thought he made some plays too.
Grant, but you're paying Jair to be that lockdown guy, and A.J. Brown just continued to cook him. But, going into this game, I think a lot of people are like, oh, it's week 1, not a lot of expectations, like win or lose, we'll be fine. Sure. I think now with the Love injury, I think that was a must win. They had more than enough opportunities to win that game. And now with Love being out, 3-4 weeks, maybe back by Minnesota, I think we're going to look back at the end of the year saying we needed to get that win. Because if we start 1-4, 1-5, like 0-5, where does that put us in playoff contention?
Well, almost out of it. I mean, you just can't start that poorly in the NFL. And Kona, I appreciate it. I got to get to a break. That's what's so interesting about this game and the way that we're going to talk about it. Because I thought there were lots of positives. The Eagles are a really talented team. A.J. Brown is awesome. And Jair Alexander cannot lock him down every single play. It's not possible. I thought he made some nice plays. He got cooked on some others. I thought the deep touchdown, the safety, I don't even know what that was. Matt LaFleur talked about pursuit angles and, approach angles and some of those things being poor in his presser today, and he was correct. Jair's not going to lie. A.J. Brown, when he's right, I think is as good as any other wide receiver in football. Now, he comes and goes. He ebbs and flows a little bit more than Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase when he's right, and with the Bengals, it seemingly isn't always right. A.J. Brown is incredible. So I'll be pretty reasonable with Jair. They are paying him a lot of money. They're also paying Rashawn Gary a lot of money, and I don't know. It's not. I think Jair Alexander gets picked on by Packers fans. He's an easy target when we're all pissy, so we go after Jair. I get that because, if you're going to talk a lot of smack, you're going to wear a lot of it too when you don't play well and you don't make good plays. This is just going to be such an interesting game to talk about because I think there were a lot of good things. The problem is now Love is hurt, and it's going to be really, really difficult to win more than a game, maybe two while he's out. Being as conservative as possible, if they get one win with Malik Willis, I might take it. Knowing that game in Brazil was right there to be had, and that's a win they could have banked and didn't. It hurts more now that Love is out. Now, if you look at Friday night's game in a vacuum, right? I think that's a different conversation, but it's not in a vacuum. We now have to to talk about that game and cover that game from a standpoint of Jordan Love being hurt, and that really changes things. 608-321-1670. Let's get into Jeff Hafley's defense. More of your thoughts as well next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
I just, when I look at it, I think it's a collective loss. All of us are responsible. Myself, it starts with me. It starts with our and goes down to our staff and then to our players. And I challenged everybody. We got to learn from this, because I think, just watching the tape, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Philly. I mean, they battled and they played their game. But I think there was a lot of opportunities that we didn't capitalize on. And when you don't do that, you get beat. And specifically, the red area was a huge problem tonight. And I would say a year ago, we were pretty damn good in that area. And we got destroyed in that area tonight.
That's Matt LaFleur Friday night. And I'll extend the guy a good amount of grace for his postgame presser on Friday night, because he's got to go out there with in the back of his mind thinking, well, my quarterback might be done for the year. And he doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how long Jordan Love will be out. He doesn't know if he'll be back at all. And hey, go answer questions about specialty and all these, these relatively trivial things, because if Jordan Love's out for the rest of the year, none of this matters at all. But go answer questions about it. So I think he was a little flustered. He's probably pretty tired. They just traveled to Brazil. But I thought that was apt analysis. A team loss. I think the offense left some opportunities on the field. I left the defense. I thought left some opportunities on the field, and the special teams, despite having the highest paid special teams coordinator in the league continues to make gaffes. Keyshawn Nixon bringing the whatever. Even if he's going to bring the ball out, dial something up. I know that's an insane concept for Rich Bisaccia. I don't know. Add some value instead of your whole mission just trying to not suck. Maybe actually be additive. I don't know. We're going to talk about Jeff Hafley and the defense. I have some stats and some things that we can kind of use to compare the way that his defense aligned and the way that they operated on Friday night relative to the way that Joe Barry kind of conducted his business and aligned and called plays and kind of schemed the last couple of years. First, we got some callers on hold. I don't want to make you wait. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. This is Hot Take Jake.
Hot Take Jake. Welcome, Hot Take. How are you?
I've been better, man. What a rough weekend. Like, you got the sports thing, the Packers. I mean, the Brewers, it just seems like they've lost their juice. I'm on this cleanse thing that has me run into the bathroom every 5 minutes. I mean, it's just one thing after another. Then I come to find out after avoiding for 4 years, COVID finally got me. So quarantined at home. But how are you? How was the wedding?
The wedding was good. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful venue. I danced a lot. I didn't really watch. The game being on didn't really bum me out too much. It's a wedding. Weddings are fun. Then Jordan Love got hurt, and I'm like bummed as a fan, but also as a sports talk radio host. I'm like, if Love's out the rest of the year, week 1 hasn't even started yet. Like there's our whole Packer season on sports talk radio. Like, how that's what I was thinking about as I was going to bed.
Your content.
Yeah,
my
sweet content. Yeah.
Well, at least you get that contrast of being surrounded by, new love and, what that can spark for your life. Hey, James Earl Jones died.
I know. I saw that before the show. And I've thought, by the way, I have mentally thought about James Earl Jones dying so many times because I feel like over the last couple of years, I can think of 2 or 3 different times where he's trended on Twitter for reasons. And every single time I've thought, oh, there he went. He's dead. And then today it actually happened. So I feel like I've mentally prepared for this.
Kind of same. I mean, and for me, anytime I hear the name James Earl Jones, it's always kind of like one of those things where, whoa, he's still around? Like,
I think he was.
So good for him.
I think he's 93.
93. That's a good run.
It's a good run. Well, what do you think? Do you have a thought on the Packers defense, offense, special teams?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm a little more optimistic than most today. I mean, the big if that LaFleur dropped in the press conference has me holding on to some hope that maybe this Love injury is, I don't know, maybe he'll be out there this weekend. We don't know. He didn't rule it out. So I don't know if you saw that or not, but yeah, they said if Love isn't cleared this week that they're going to roll with Willis. So that's what everybody's kind of running with on social media right now. Shame on the NFL. I mean, I know nothing's ever going to stop this machine from continuing to.
Why shame on the NFL? Why?
You can't. I mean, you didn't watch the game, but the field conditions. I mean, it was just aesthetically horrendous football to watch.
Field conditions suck everywhere all the time. Like, guys, I turn on games every Sunday, and it feels like there's a game or two. The Super Bowl a couple of years ago in Arizona, guys were slipping all over the place.
Well, it's funny. My cousin was like, well, they go to Soldier Field and, it's the same thing. And I'm like, let's be real here. Soldier Field in December, you expect that. Like, you're in a tropical climate and it's September. You should be like
humid.
I mean, it wasn't just the humidity. You could see it. I mean, you could visibly see it. That's one of the beautiful things about high def is you can see just how terrible the conditions were. And it makes me mad because on the play that everybody's freaking out about Jair getting cooked on, if you go back and watch it, Kenny Clark just gets a tremendous burst off the line of scrimmage, and then the turf monster just swallows up his feet, and he falls down.
And there goes Hot Take Jake. Okay. Odd time to wrap up your point, but I agree. Look, the field was messy, and it impacted plays by both teams. It did not prohibit the Packers from winning this game. They had a lot of opportunities to win this game, aside from the turf. And yeah, it made the product a little frustrating to watch, and that's fine. That happened in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. It happened in Cleveland yesterday. And then the games that are played on turf, everyone wants to get angry because, well, guys, cleats get stuck, and then more injuries happen. Like, and are we supposed to be more mad about this because it happened in another country? Like, is that? I guess I don't know. Yeah, it sucked. It was annoying and it impacted the game, but it didn't prohibit the Packers from winning. So I don't really know what to do with it other than just point it out and move along. 608-321-1670. One more call, then a couple thoughts on the defense. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Isaac from Janesville.
Hey, Isaac. Thanks for listening in Janesville. Hell yeah. What's up?
Yeah, man. I didn't get to see much of the game, probably only the first quarter and a little bit into the second, but I'm just wondering your thoughts on the new kicker, whether or not you liked his results or didn't like him.
Well, they could have been better, Isaac. I appreciate that. They could have been better. They also could have been worse. And I guess that's where we're at with the Packers kicker. I thought just listening to his presser when he showed up in Green Bay and we kind of first got to know him and we didn't get to watch him kick in preseason or really in camp. He kind of showed up right before the season and all of a sudden was the guy. He oozed confidence. And I kind of think, and Cone might have pointed this out. There might have been a caller who used this exact phrase. I think fake it till you make it really applies with this guy. Just show up and act like you own the job. It's like I've been rewatching The Office and I keep using it as although I'm very close to the end and the season's getting weird now, like Jim and Pam are on the fritz because Jim is wanting to do the sports marketing gig in Philadelphia and not to take Jim's side, but Pam is like, no, I want to keep working this crummy desk job for Ed Helms, who's now managing, who's a complete and total dick. Like I don't really like Andy's character except for when he's an idiot early on with anger issues. That's funny. So I don't know. I'm at that point in the show, but Nellie shows up. Andy's not in his office and she's like, I'm the manager now. And she just owns it to the point where she's just the manager and everyone kind of accepts it. And I think that's kind of what the Packers kicker has to do. Braden Arvison show up like, yeah, I'm the dude and I'm really good and make your kicks, obviously. But if he gets into town, it's like, well, I know that I'm not the guy that you expected. And you know, I know you guys have been looking for a kicker. I'll do my best. Like that can't be the approach. That can't be the messaging. That can't be the aura. So just show up and be a cocky SOB and own it and make your kicks. Obviously, that's what's going to decide whether he's the kicker or not. So that's my thought on the Packers kicker. That's all we really have to go on. And if that kick doesn't doink in or it doinks in instead of doinking back, you know, we're probably not even talking about it. The irony is not lost on me that a couple of weeks ago, all that we could talk about was backup quarterback and kicker. And now those might be the two most important things on the team. And I remember the calls like, hey, but if we're talking about backup quarterback and kicker, that means the team's pretty good. It's like, well, yeah, it is until your quarterback gets hurt or until you need to make a kick to win a game, you know, and then it's obviously a massive problem. I have some statistics for you, some snap count things, some alignment details about the way the Packers defense lined up. I'm not really sure what to make of Jeff Hafley through one game. And we're not supposed to have a definitive answer. It's not like I expected to come in here today with some yes or no answer on Jeff Hafley and whether or not he's a good defensive coordinator and whether or not he'll be the right fit for the Packers quarterback or defense. That was never the expectation, right? We're going to need more than one game. But through one game, I have a couple questions. I have a couple thoughts. Let's try to make sense of the Packers defense and Jeff Hafley through his first game in Green Bay. More of your thoughts as well. The Wisco Sports Show continues next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Do I think we need to play better defensively? Absolutely. We can't give up, 30 some odd points a game in this league. That's usually a recipe for disaster. So
that's Matt LaFleur again, post-game Friday night. And with all these little comments and, tidbits that I might play to bring us back into a segment, I want to make it clear that was a small part of a much larger answer where he talked about is a team loss, coaching, offense, everybody. I thought that was interesting. And I think it hints to the defense in a place that I would like to start our conversation about the defense. I think the defense did some good things, and I think there were good individual performances on that defense. The headline of giving up 400 yards and 34 points, that's kind of a non-starter. It's kind of, even to a talented team. And I think the Eagles have a lot of talent. I still don't know how good they are because I don't know that I trust their coordinators. I don't think I trust their coach. I don't think I trust their quarterback. But A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith are awesome. And Saquon Barkley is awesome. And Dallas Goedert, even though I don't think he played much of a game. Again, I didn't see this game live. I had a wedding. Dallas Goedert had 4 catches for 31 yards. It's not like he was a high-level performer, but he's a factor, and he's really good. Jahan Dotson, obviously, they traded a third-round pick for and feel really strongly about him, acquiring him. Howie Roseman, that was a big deal that he swung for a lot of praise. So naturally, again, I didn't see the game, but let me check the box score. I assume Jahan Dotson played a huge role. Okay. 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 touchdowns on 1 target. Okay, well, must be a fluke this week. It can't possibly be that he's just not any good. That can't be the reason he wasn't able to make the Commanders roster. Weird. Howie Roseman's a genius, so that stat really doesn't make sense. 608-321-1670 if you want to join the show. Would love to have you. If you're on hold, I'm going to get to you here in just a minute. The Packers defense of Jeff Hafley. Denny and Holman brought him up. Jeremy and Scotty tweeted in and says, I'm just a dude that watches a bunch of football, but I didn't see anything jump off the screen saying this defense looks or feels different for better or worse. They actually ran a lot of the same things. Now, I don't have Joe Barry's snap breakdowns, and I don't have the percentages of what coverages he ran and how often he ran them. Dara Carragher, I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Dara Carragher, I believe is an Irish writer who does some really good work. He's a really good Twitter follow. You should read his story about Jeff Hafley's defense today at 24/7 Sports. Some of these details were lifted from that. Please go read it and support it. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just taking his work and using it for my show. So I'm also, go read it. Dara Carragher, 24/7 Sports. You've seen him if you follow Packers people on Twitter. 21 snaps of cover 3, 19 snaps of cover 1, 16 snaps of cover 4, 9 snaps of cover 6. That's a lot of, cover 6 is some combination of 2 and 4, quarter, half, where it's like you have, cover 2 on this side of the field, cover 4 on that side of the field. My point is a mix of everything. Cover 1, lots of cover 1, 2, which is only one height, right? You're a little bit more aggressive. You have fewer bodies hanging out deep, kind of playing center field. I also played 7 snaps at cover 0. A couple of them are on tush pushes, which is worth mentioning. I think that's a smart thing to do. If there's a tush push, there's not really a threat of guys going deep, so you can run cover 0 and have everyone at the line without really fear of retribution. So I think that's just more of a run blitz or like a goal line type defense that you would run in Madden in a short yardage situation. They ran cover 0 15 snaps total under Joe Barry last year. So there were some differences. There were also some similarities. The Packers actually blitzed less on Friday night in a small sample than Joe Barry blitzed. They blitzed on 24% of the snaps on Friday night. Joe Barry blitzed at a rate of just over 30%. So he actually backed off a little bit. One difference, and again, Dara Carragher, to go read a story, 24/7 Sports, pointed out 5 blitzes on Friday were nickel blitzes, cornerback blitzes from the slot corner. Keyshawn Nixon and Quay Walker played there a little bit too. I like him as a blitzer. I remember talking about, and this isn't like patting myself on the back, when they drafted him, I said, just use him as a blitzer. He's hyper athletic. Just let him go get some, just sick him on the quarterback. Not different from how the Cowboys use Micah Parsons. That was out of necessity because their edge rushers got hurt, but still let him blitz. I think him blitzing out of the slot, I like that. That's an interesting wrinkle. They ran 5 blitzes from nickel corner on Friday night. Joe Barry called 13 of those total all of last season. So there's a difference. There's something, there's a sensibility that Jeff Hafley tapped into on Friday night that Joe Barry often didn't. I think that defensive performance on Friday night was, to a reasonable degree, what we should have expected. And Packers fans, you're not allowed to get mad today about Jair giving up a bomb to A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown is awesome, and we all wanted a more aggressive defense. A defense that would force more turnovers, as they did on Friday, but would also give up more big plays. And we were fine with that. I'm still fine with that, because if the result is going to be the same, as Jeremy and Scotty tweeted in, and some of the snap counts and statistics and breakdowns would indicate, at least through 1 week, if the results are going to be the same, then I want something more exciting. That was more exciting on Friday night. And again, if the Packers offense just capitalizes on some of those turnovers with touchdowns instead of field goals, the Packers win. And we're having a completely different discussion today. This game is different. And maybe Jordan Love still gets hurt or doesn't get hurt, right? These are all hypotheticals. It's really hard to hash these out, even just a couple days later. But Packers fans, we can't get mad that they gave up some bigger plays, because they also forced some negative plays. They forced some turnovers. Now, I wanted a little bit more from the pass rush. The Eagles' offensive line is really good, but I also think on some level that Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark are supposed to be good. Lucas Van Ness didn't really play a whole lot. That was really disappointing. J.J. Anagbari played a little bit more. That was a bummer when I saw the snap counts and was looking at how often certain guys played. I don't know. Again, Matt LaFleur, through all of the snap breakdowns, and like it's still over 400 yards and over 30 points. And that's kind of a non-starter, and I would agree.
Do I think we need to play better defensively? Absolutely. We can't give up, 30 some odd points a game in this league. That's usually a recipe for disasters.
I agree. And we could talk about how it looked and how it came to be, but 400 yards, 30 plus points, you can't have that every week. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant, Tony from Texas.
Tony in Texas.
I think you're taking a very rational approach to this. I agree with what you're saying. I'm not mad at the defense. You won the turnover battle 3-1. You didn't capitalize in the red zone. Let me ask you this: how much do they miss Aaron Jones in that red zone with that security blanket that he is?
I don't know. You brought that up on Bill's show earlier today, and when I think of red zone, I think of Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers at the end, where they could just give themselves a little wink and a nod, and they could kind of run something off script. Because I think the red zone, and maybe this isn't founded in fact, but this is the way that I just view the red zone. When you get down there, Tony, in that tighter area, it's more about the Jimmies and the Joes just making plays rather than the X's and the O's. It's harder to scheme guys open down there because it's so much tighter. And that is one drawback, I think, of not having a bona fide, clear-cut number one wide receiver. Who is the guy, right, who can go and in the corner of the end zone, make that one step and be open on a back shoulder? I don't know that Love has that guy yet. And I think success in the red zone is going to be something that they have to figure out and in an offensive environment that's a little bit different than it has been in years past. I will say that I don't know if it's related to Aaron Jones yet. I don't know what to do with that.
Well, I don't like playing Monday quarterback here and looking at plays, say, oh, they should have ran this or should have ran that. But at that moment, I was looking at the plays and everything was going to the end zone when they only needed was like 5 or 6 yards. And it didn't seem like there was any kind of crossing routes, or you didn't have that little security blanket of Aaron Jones. And last time I remember Aaron Jones, he was running wild on the 49ers and the Cowboys. So I think they did miss him a little bit. I mean, I don't want to poo-poo it, but I think they did miss him in that situation.
Do you think his production would have been any better than what Josh Jacobs gave you on Friday night?
No, I'm talking red zone.
Okay. Oh, Jesus, Tony. Okay, I just wanted to make it clear.
No,
okay.
I think Josh Jacobs is fine. I think he had a really good game, and I like Emmanuel Wilson as a change of pace back. I thought he had a nice game. I do think they might have a potential issue at left tackle. Don't want to overreact, but I thought Rasheed Walker was very so-so.
I think I've been concerned. My concern with the Packers offensive line is who's the star, right? I don't know that any of them are a huge concern, Tony. I still don't know that I'm that concerned about Walker. I think the Eagles have some really good edge rushers. They're really good on the lines. So I think that's baptism by fire for this, this iteration. I know they lost Runyon and they rearranged some guys, but for this iteration, that's baptism by fire. I wonder where the star is. Where's the star? Where's the elite lineman that we can kind of build everything else around? I think all of them are good. I don't know that they have a great one.
Well, they just cut him, right, because of injuries. But, David Bakhtiari.
I mean, he hasn't been elite in 2+ years. But, yes, you were correct. Sure. That used to be their guy, yes.
Okay, lastly, I watched a ton of football. I love football. Football's back. Perfect weather, patio weather. I watched all the games. And, the NFC North, I think, is as good as advertised. I got a backhanded compliment from a Bears fan, so I'm going to give a backhanded compliment about Caleb Williams. Backhanded compliment I got was from a lady, a Bears fan, Grant. She goes, "You're pretty hot for an old man." I go, I don't know how to take that. I'm obviously aged out, but why are you saying that?
I just assumed when you said you got a compliment from a Bears fan, I assumed that she was complimenting our football team, not you.
No.
Congrats.
She didn't know I was a Packer fan. Then I showed her the G underneath my shirt. I'm like, yeah, I'm a Packer fan. And then I go, hey, congratulations on your win. I guess Caleb Williams really looked to play inspiring football today. The Titans literally could have just taken a knee every play in the second half and won that game. Did you watch that at all?
Yeah, that game I did watch. I did watch a lot of that game. Yesterday, the noon slate in my house, and Tony, I got to run. I appreciate it. And congrats again on the I just assumed that she was complimenting our football team. I don't know. Damn it. Yeah, the Titans would have had a better chance to win, just kneeling it down. That throw by Will Levis, man, that's a crusher. I want to give you a quick take on the Bears game yesterday when we come back. Just let's depart from the Packers for 2 or 3 minutes. I'm going to give you my take on week 1 and Caleb Williams. And then at 5 o'clock, I have a question, and then I want to open it back up to the phones. The question will be, so think about it until after 5, and then we'll get back into this. Who is under the most pressure in Jordan Love's absence, however long it lasts? So let's say he's out 3 weeks. For the next 3 weeks, who is under the most pressure? Now, I think it's between Matt LaFleur, Jeff Hafley, and Josh Jacobs. You may have another name in mind. So I would love to hear that name. Think about that. We're going to table that. We're going to put a pin in it. We're going to table that until 5 o'clock and discuss it as a community. 608-321-1670. I'll give you my thoughts on the Bears and some of the other football that we saw yesterday, and then we'll get back into the Packers at 5 o'clock.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. Going to get back into the Packers at 5 o'clock. We're not really leaving the Packers, but I do have a thought seeing that last caller, seeing Tony brought up Caleb Williams. I have a thought that I came up with during the noon slate yesterday watching Vikings-Giants. I had to pull up my laptop. I had to open Stream East or Crack Streams or Meth Streams or whatever. I'm like, I cannot spend the entire noon slate. And I'm not someone who sets up 4 or 5 TVs. I'm not someone who pays for Sunday NFL ticket. I need another game on, though, because Giants-Vikings. And that's nothing against the Vikings. If you're a Vikings fan, Kevin O'Connell was very impressive. Sam Darnold was very impressive. That was an impressive showing. I'm not taking anything away from it. Just what a useless product to watch. Like, this game sucks, and the Giants suck. So I was watching a little bit of the Bears game. Caleb Williams yesterday, 14 attempts. Hold on. I want to make sure I get this right. I want to make sure I don't misread this. I'm going to open up the actual box score. So the Bears won 24-17. They didn't score an offensive touchdown. Caleb Williams, 14 completions on 29 attempts for 93 yards. No touchdowns, no interceptions. Some balls were batted around, some good luck, some bad luck. He also had some drops. I was driving into work today listening to one of my favorite Monday podcasts during the football season, Colin Cowherd and John Middlecoff. Microbrew had to wait, but Kurt and JR, no fear, I got to it while eating lunch today. So I was listening to Cowherd and Middlecoff, and I think it was Middlecoff who pointed out that if the Bears had simply been playing Geno or Baker instead of Will Levis, then the Bears would have lost. And I think that's true. And Bears fans, by the way, I'm not talking smack. My team's 0-1. But had Caleb Williams been playing and the Bears been playing any other quarterback not named Will Levis yesterday, they probably would have lost. And I actually think, and Bears fans, you may or may not agree, I actually think that's really cool. I think that's really cool because I like Baker and what the Bucs have built around him. And I kind of like the Seahawks and Geno, and they're building it their own way. I think that idea that Caleb Williams and the Darling Bears, who everyone is super excited about, everyone thinks the Bears are going to be super great, a lot of hype. I think it's really cool that had the Bears simply been playing Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith yesterday, they would have lost and they probably would have been blown out. That's such a testament to the NFL and how hard it is to win in the NFL. Like, you think that the standard for success, you think the entry barrier to being a contender is Mahomes and Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. And maybe that's the entrance barrier to win a Super Bowl. Maybe that's the final threshold you have to cross. But the threshold, the barrier to simply win a noon game, week 1, is you got to be able to beat Baker Mayfield. And I know Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith or guys like that, they don't get a lot of hype in offseason discussions. But how cool is it in the NFL that you simply can't just waltz in and be better than the 8-9, 9-8 Bucs? Like, this league is competitive, man. It's so competitive. And coaches, it's a cliche. We hear it all the time. You hear it almost every week where a coach will say, well, in this league, if you don't show up 100% ready to go, and if you lose focus for even a little bit, you'll get beat. It's a cliche, but it's so true. And I thought about that. And I'm sorry, Bears fans, I'm not picking on you because my team, again, is 0-1. But the idea that if the Bears had simply been playing Geno or Baker, neither quarterback is one that we use as a measure of success. If they had just been playing Geno or Baker yesterday, they would have lost and they probably would have got blown out. And that's not to take anything away from the Bears. That's just to say, man, how cool is the NFL that it is that competitive? We're not talking about Mahomes. If they'd been playing Allen or Mahomes or Burrow. No, man, if they'd been playing Baker Mayfield yesterday, that wouldn't have been good enough. This league is so competitive, and I'm so happy to have it back. Hour number 2, the Wisco Sports Show. Coming up next, I want to talk about members of the Packers who are under the most pressure in Jordan Love's absence. I'm really excited to get into this. Goody, LaFleur, Jeff Hafley. I think Josh Jacobs is a compelling answer as well. We'll discuss and debate next. Hour 2, Wisco Sports Show.
It's because of me. It's because of me.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, Jordan Love is not going on injured reserve. That was what Coach Matt LaFleur told reporters earlier today. If the Packers quarterback had gone on IR, he would have missed at least 4 games. Instead, he'll play when cleared from the knee injury he suffered late in the loss to the Eagles last Friday. LaFleur said Love's doing everything he can to get back on the field, but they won't put him back out there if he can't protect himself. If Love can't play, Malik Willis will be the starting quarterback and Sean Clifford the backup. That includes this Sunday against the Colts in the home opener. Turning to Wisconsin, they're going to host number 4 Alabama late Saturday morning at Camp Randall Stadium. Badgers have not looked great offensively in their first 2 games, scoring 28 and 27 points respectively. Offensive coordinator Phil Longo understands fans not being impressed, but said only one thing matters at the end of the day.
I think fans love seeing points and they love seeing big plays. I think any of them would trade those for wins just about any day of the week. And I'm here to please Coach Fickell, and this staff is here to put an offense on the field that helps us win the games. You would hope that the fans enjoy winning more than anything else, and that's the only goal that we have in preparation for each week.
Again, it'll be Alabama and Wisconsin on Saturday. Kick is at 11.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Farmers deal with a lot, including long days, stress, and fatigue. This is your reminder to take breaks, stretch, have a snack, and hydrate your body. Avoid farm accidents by keeping yourself healthy. Visit ruralmutual.com to learn how Rural Mutual supports Wisconsin farmers and prioritize safety on the farm.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Brewers and Giants will get a 3-game series started tomorrow out in San Francisco. It's the first of 2 stops for the crew on their West Coast road trip, as they will also go to Arizona. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, print.
Love can't take the sack. Pitch it back. Jacobs, 8 seconds left. Looking to the sideline. He's there with 5 seconds on the clock.
Love slow getting off the field. Is still down.
And he is in major pain. Will be helped off the field here in Brazil. They had 2 players down. The immediate concern for their quarterback, but their center, Josh Myers, was also slow to get up and is hobbling towards the sideline. Meanwhile, the backup quarterback is Malik Willis, who they just traded for August 26th.
Definitely a sloppy game, I think, from us. I think there was some uncharacteristic things that we did as a staff, quite frankly, and that trickled down to our players.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Now, I want to get back into the Packers, but two things. Depending on how the final hour of today's show goes, we might talk about the Badgers for 5 minutes because I think that there might be something going on in Madison. Those comments from Phil Longo and Zach Heilprin, our sports director, was in the building today. He's often, just for reference, he's not in the studio every day because he's out covering practice or he's going around. And sometimes he just works from home because he doesn't need the studio. He doesn't need to be here every day, although he's here. So I was talking to him after Bill's show today, and he had just come from Phil Longo from the Badger availability. And he kind of said, Phil Longo kind of, I don't remember what Zach said. It wasn't like Phil Longo blew up today. It was, it was very reasonable. Like Phil Longo kind of went off on a tangent today when asked about his offense. And Zach's comment, and I think if you listen to Phil Longo's comment, you heard a little bit of that audio. I don't think it's a stretch to say that Phil Longo kind of sounds like he wants to open it up a little bit and he wants to maybe do some more air raid-ish things. And I'm not entirely sure. And Zach kind of hinted at this too, which makes me feel more right about it. I wouldn't come up with Badgers theories if Zach didn't agree with them. But I don't know that Phil Longo and Luke Fickell are really 100% on the same page about what offense they're trying to run. Now, I know today is a Green and Gold Monday, delayed from Friday's game, and Jordan Love's injured, and I want to do a Packers topic here, so maybe we won't have time, and maybe we'll get to it tomorrow, but that's interesting. That piqued my interest today when Zach came in and said, hey, man, Phil Longo made some interesting comments today. So there is that. We might get to that. Also, before we move on to my comments, I just said a quick couple things about the Bears and their game yesterday. And I was driving into work today, and John Middlecoff and Colin Cowherd do a podcast together on Sunday nights, kind of the NFL version of Simmons and Russillo. I really like it. It's a good recap of a football weekend. They sometimes talk college too, which I need. I need to listen to more college commentary and content. But one of them pointed out that had the Bears been playing not Will Levis, but even Geno Smith or Baker Mayfield yesterday, they lose and they're probably blown out. And I heard that, and Bears fans, this is not a Packers fan giving flack to the Bears because I think they built a really nice roster. I think Caleb, for the most part, is going to be fine. Not that I want to get into that today, but that in that moment, I thought, wow, that's kind of cool. And that's a testament to how competitive the NFL is, because for all the obsession of, Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Rodgers, no, actually Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith are real sons of bitches to beat too if you don't come in ready to play and you don't come buttoned up. And Bobby and Menominee with an excellent text over that last 2-minute break said Vikings played the exact same week 1 game last year. They lost to Baker and blew out Danny Derps this year, to add to your point. Yeah, right? Like we focus so much on the MVP level quarterbacks, but we forget in this league, in the NFL, compared to the NBA, compared to Major League Baseball, it's not a given to really beat anybody. It's not a given to beat Tommy DeVito, as the Packers learned last year. And that's a good thing. Bears fans, I know it almost came at your expense. You won. And again, I'm not trying to talk trash, but I think that's such a testament to this league and how competitive it is. I thought that was cool. 608-321-1670. Call, text, comment on the live stream, tweet at Wisco Grant. The topic: who is under the most pressure in Jordan Love's absence? So let's say he's out for the next 3 weeks. Let's just say, might be a little bit more. I doubt it would be less than 3 weeks. Great. If so, let's say 3 weeks. He's out for 3 weeks. For the next 3 weeks, who's under the most pressure? Matt LaFleur? Jeff Hafley? I think Josh Jacobs is an intriguing answer. Cone Roller texts in and says Malik Willis is under the most pressure. His NFL career is at stake these next few weeks. So Malik Willis is fighting for his job. I don't think Matt LaFleur's coaching for his job. I don't think Jeff Hafley's coaching for his job. So that's a fun, different spin. That's why topics like this are fun, is you can get established stakes and give an answer. Like Malik Willis has more to lose than anybody here, because if he plays like dump, his career's done. And if he plays well, then maybe he's looking at a nice career as a backup here, right? That's some nice gravy, not a lot of work. You just sit on the bench, hold the clipboard, play some snaps every once in a while. So Cone, I think that's a great answer. Chad tweets in, listening to us in Eau Claire on Sports Talk 105.1. I appreciate that, Chad. Says Brian Gutekunst. It's absolutely criminal that he did not have a solid veteran backup for a situation like this with a loaded roster that has Super Bowl potential. Maybe. What if Malik Willis is fine and they win 2 of 3, or even if they win 1 of 3, but they look really good in the 2 games that they lose? But I agree with you that if this goes sideways and Malik Willis looks awful, but the defense looks okay and guys are open and wide receivers are visibly frustrated, like this guy is not it, then yeah, I think this is a tough look for Brian Gutekunst. I don't think his career's riding on it, but yeah, I think he has some pressure on him too as well, Chad. That's not someone who I thought of, but I like that answer. Let's take some calls. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Grant, it's Q.
Q, what's going on? Thanks for listening. As always, Q, you're one of our Milwaukee listeners that calls in. I appreciate that. Thank you.
So I think to answer your question directly, I think the person under the most pressure is Matt LaFleur.
Would agree.
Looking at the schedule ahead, I'm assuming Love will be out for 6 weeks.
Why do you assume that?
So part of it is looking at the schedule. So we only play 2 teams in the next 6 weeks that made the playoffs last year, and we have 4 of those 6 games at home. Okay. So it's like it's an easier part of the schedule. The 6th game would be against the Texans at home, which I view as a coin flip game anyways. But we got Colts at home next week, Titans on the road the week after that, Vikings at home.
They host the Vikings. I think that's important. That's a big deal. The idea of beating Sam Darnold at home, even with a backup, is there's a path there. I don't know that they'd be favored, but there's a path. If that game was at US Bank, I'd feel differently, to your point, Q.
Yeah, and I think that those 3 games are very winnable with Malik Willis or whoever else is starting.
Okay.
Like, if this is the team that we think that they are, that we thought they were the whole preseason, and like we're told again and again that LaFleur is an offensive guru. Like, if I am the Colts, I'm very concerned that I have no footage at all of Matt LaFleur's offense with Malik Willis. Whether it's his first time on the field as a Packer or not, like that as a defensive coordinator, I don't know what to do with my team this week. Like you're just running a shadow offense that has nothing to do with what you're going to see.
So
and then
continue. Yep. Make your last point. Go ahead.
So then we have the Rams on the road and Cardinals at home. And like I said, Texans at home. So like, to me, it's a pretty easy part of the schedule. Like there's no need to rush Love back in my opinion. That's where I'm at. So, and I trust LaFleur to get an offense out there with mostly home games that can beat these teams that didn't make the playoffs last year.
Okay, so I agree with some of the things you said, Q. And this is always, I feel like this is always how my conversations with Q go, is I'm like, all right, I agree with this, yes, but then you lose me on this, that, and the other thing. If I was a defensive coordinator, I'd much rather see Malik Willis. I don't know that there's a lot of concern over, well, we don't have any tape. Well, that's because he's not any good and he hasn't played, we think, up until this point. We know he hasn't been good up until this point. Doesn't mean he'll be bad now. I agree with you that the next 3 games are manageable. I never want to say easy, and I never want to say winnable, because every NFL game, as we've just kind of been talking about, it kind of works out well that we were just talking about the Bears and Geno and Baker, and there's no easy games in this league. So I don't think it's an easy part of the schedule. I think the next 3 weeks are doable. I think they're manageable. I see a path to beating the Colts at home. I see a path to beating the Vikings at home and Sam Darnold if he throws you a couple. Tennessee on the road is tough, man. That defensive line is nasty, but I don't know that Will Levis is going to cook you. Okay, so the next 3 weeks, they should be able to pick up a win there with Malik Willis. If they're able to get 2, hallelujah. You lose me at the next 3 saying that the Rams and the Cardinals and the Texans are easier. I just don't think you're correct on that. Those are 3 excellent teams, especially the Rams and especially the Texans. Now, at the end, to bring it back to your original point, and then we'll get back to the calls quickly. I agree that Matt LaFleur's under a ton of pressure. He has the pieces on this offense with Jacobs and Dobbs and Watson and Reed, who looks awesome, and Kraft and Musgrave and Wicks. You have the pieces to cook something up around even a lesser quarterback. Look at what Kevin O'Connell did with Sam Darnold yesterday. And I think Darnold's a lot better than Willis, but I think the supporting cast around, like Matt LaFleur, especially at home, should be able to scheme up some throws, scheme up some plays. Look at what Kevin O'Connell did yesterday. Look what the Rams did last night. Look at what McVay was able to do now. He didn't lose his quarterback, but they lost basically their whole O-line. They lost Puka Nacua. This Packers team, to your point about Matt LaFleur, and then we'll get back to the calls, they need to look like a real team without Jordan Love. There is no scenario where they completely look awful, like a melting down tire fire with Malik Willis, and convince me that, well, when Love gets back, it'll be fine. No, if this is a team with championship mettle and Super Bowl capabilities, they're going to look competitive and they're going to fight and they're going to put together some games even without Jordan Love. That might not mean that they win, let's say 2 of the next 3, but they better win 1 and they better be competitive in at least 1, ideally 2 of the others. Now, once you get past Minnesota and we start talking about going at the Rams or the Cardinals or the Texans, that's different. But if this is a team that can contend, they need to look the part, even if they're not winning. And yes, even with Malik Willis, because I've seen other coaches, even through 1 week of the season, do it so far through injuries. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, it's Andy.
Andy, what's up?
So, to me, we obviously need Malik Willis to perform. We need Josh Jacobs to perform. So, to me, this team lives and dies with the offensive line. To me, that is the most important unit.
Okay.
We won't be able to see how good Malik is unless the offensive line protects him. We won't be able to see how good Josh Jacobs can do unless the line opens up holes. So to me, that is the most important unit as we hit this stretch without Jordan Love.
And I think that probably puts a little pressure on Adam Stenavich too. I mean, they were rotating right guard. I mean, they were basically 50%, and I have the snaps here in front of me, but it was basically a 50% breakdown. I'll throw it up on the live stream because I have it. Again, I have it somewhere. Let me pull it up. But I like the offensive line. If they just give Josh Jacobs a little bit of room to rumble. I mean, Andy, think of how in the last 5 weeks of the season last year when the offensive line kind of crystallized and came into form, and then Aaron Jones started running. Remember how much easier Jordan Love's life got when Aaron Jones was running with a head of steam? It just becomes so much easier. So I agree with you. That's a good take.
And remember how much Jordan Love ran when the offensive line was clicking? That's the other thing. Malik can't run unless the offensive line is protecting him too. So that's, to me, that's what we live and die with, is that offensive line.
And he's an athlete too. He's more likely probably to get out and run. Not that Jordan Love isn't. Andy, I appreciate you. Thanks for listening in Altoona. Where are these? I have this breakdown bookmarked here somewhere. Oh, it's going to bother me. I have it. I swear I have it. No, I'm struggling. Whatever. Scrolling through my bookmarks. Whatever. It was pretty close to a 50-50 split. I'll find you those numbers. Well, here it is. Well, it's taken this long. I might as well see it all the way through. Running backs here. Let's see. Or right guard. Smith, Bullard, Musgrave, Ryan. Sean Ryan played 42% of snaps. And Jordan Morgan played 42% of snaps. How's that possible? Sean Ryan, 63-42. So it was a little bit more Sean Ryan, but Jordan Morgan played as well. I don't think that was worth it. I don't think that was worth me derailing the show for 60 seconds to get that number, but don't say I never did anything for you. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, this is Jake. How's it going, Grant?
It's going good, Jake. Where are you listening, Jake?
I am on the road on the way home from work.
Awesome. Thank you for listening. What do you got?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to say I have tried calling in many times. I end up getting home too early before
Well, it's a good problem to have. That means you're not stuck in traffic or something, but I'm happy to have you. I'm glad you got through.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Obviously, since that Jeff Hasley, he's going to have to, I guess, be a little bit of a surgeon with managing the bleeding, because on his end, that's going to be a huge thing, managing that. And if they can step it up, because there was obviously like the turnover difference, you would hope that the offense can make a little more for getting a few turnovers. But also on the flip side of things, on special teams, Narvison, I think I'm saying his name right.
Yep.
So I don't even know. He did okay. I mean, he missed the one, but obviously if they couldn't get into the end zone after getting in the red zone 4 times, or near it at least, he's going to have to step it up big time. And I could see them needing to take long shots, needing to take the kick, just because they can't get down there. So
yeah, well, and if they're going to slow things down, play ball control, and try to limit possessions, like those field goals, those points are going to be at a premium. That's absolutely a good take.
Exactly, yeah. So and I can also see more quarterback option. I mean, they always do a little bit, but, you know, they never have Jordan Love typically kicking it out and running it, you know, maybe once a game, but I could see him maybe keeping the defense. But those are my 3 points.
I like those points. What did you say your name was one more time? Just help me remember.
Jake.
All right, awesome. I appreciate it, Jake. I'm glad you got through. Thank you for listening. No, Narvison's an interesting one. And look, I think as Jay Krebs texts in, he says, it's by far Matt who's under the most pressure. I think Matt LaFleur is the correct answer, okay? But that doesn't mean we can't talk about all these other individual parties. That's kind of the fun of sports talk. Is like, convince me of why this player. Oh, I didn't think about that. Convince me why this coach, you know, is under the most pressure. Jared Manitowoc says it's Danny Whelan because he's going to be punting a ton. Yeah. Yeah. Another answer that works. Yeah. I think Matt LaFleur, this almost isn't fair to him. And I understand that life isn't fair. You know, it's show business, not show friends, as we often say. But he just proved his mettle with a group of rookie wide receivers last year and a first-time starting quarterback, the youngest offense in the NFL. He proved his mettle last year, and now we're putting him under the gun. It's like, well, if you can't win with a backup, then you're not any good. It's like, well, but that's life. That's life in the NFL. That's life as a head coach. Like, you are constantly needing to prove yourself over and over and over again. And he should be able to cook a little bit with Malik Willis. I'm watching what Kevin O'Connell's doing with Sam Darnold, scheming things for him. I'm watching what Sean McVay did last night after Puka Nacua and basically their entire offensive line went out. I'm not asking for Matt LaFleur to go undefeated with Malik Willis, but you got to notch at least one win. If he's out for 3 weeks, if you can go 1-2, I think that's enough. And you got to look like a real team with real juice that's competitive and that's a tough team to beat. You can't lay down without your starting quarterback, because if Jordan Love comes back into a team that's got attitude and that's a tough out, well, then you're ready to go on a run. Then you're ready to stack wins because you'll need to, because you'll probably be 1-3, 2-2, something like that, at best 2-2. Jordan Love can't come into a team that's completely on fire, because then the season, like, even if they're able to win some games, I'm just not going to buy it. It's not going to be believable. One more call, then we'll take a break. 608-321-1670, Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is John in Cornell.
Jonathan Cornell. What's going on, John?
Hey, not a whole lot. I would say the pressure is on Matt LaFleur, but I would also say it's on Brian Gutekunst as well.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being, Matt LaFleur, the pressure's on him because you don't want to lose the next 3 games, or hypothetically, as Q put it, if Jordan Love is out for 6 weeks, you don't want to go down and be 2-6 going into week 7, right?
Yep.
So I would say that's a big point. I would also say too that, Brian Gutekunst, this is a huge point for him, because if the team tanks badly in 6 or 7 weeks, now all of a sudden you're 2-6 or whatever, Brian Gutekunst is going to be on the hot seat. Not that he would lose his job, but the coaching staff of the Packers have to be able to pivot. Good teams can pivot with their second and third stringers and play really well.
Yeah.
Like the Cleveland Browns did last year, bringing in Joe Flacco, and they had like 15 starters down, and they brought in all kinds of people. As a Browns fan, I was ecstatic, but they were able to pivot and have a pretty decent season despite losing in the playoffs.
Yeah, or you look at the Vikings. Again, I'm going to keep bringing up the Vikings. I appreciate the call, and I love that we're representing Cornell. You look at what the Vikings did yesterday. Sam Darnold stepped in, and that looked like the Vikings. Like that looked like the Vikings. Or the Rams last night. That looked like the Rams. And I know that Sam Darnold was scheduled starter, and I think Sam Darnold's markedly better than Malik Willis at this moment in time. And I know that Sean McVay still had Matt Stafford last night. But the idea is when you have injuries that crush you at one position like offensive line, or you lose your quarterback, right? A good coach and a well-built team can absorb that guy, can bring that guy in and keep their identity and still be competitive and still be a tough out. I'm not asking for Matt LaFleur to win all his games with Malik Willis. Let's say 3 games. Can you go 1-2 and look really competitive and tough and nasty in the other 2 and look like a team worth a damn for when Jordan Love comes back? That's all I really need to see. That's all I really need to see. You mentioned Brian Gutekunst. Maybe a question, and we can debate this when we come back. If Malik Willis is a disaster, and he's not giving this deep wide receiving core a chance to make plays, and he is being protected, and Matt LaFleur's calling a good game, and Malik Willis is a disaster. I mean, how accountable do we hold Brian Gutekunst for this? If it looks like over this next 3 weeks, I'm just using 3 weeks for the sake of conversation. If Jordan Love is out 3 weeks and Malik Willis is a disaster and holding back the rest of the roster and holding back the coaches, and their season basically ends because they start 0-4 and they can't even get competent quarterback play, what do we do then with Brian Gutekunst? Because the season is done really effectively because you couldn't get a backup quarterback to come in and win one game. 608-321-1670. If you're on hold, stay there, I promise. You got 2 guys on hold. I'll get to you right when we come back. It's the Wisco Sports Show.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
Was there any thought to bringing in another quarterback?
No. Despite reports, it's crazy to me, like how people come up with some of these things. And I think you're always, you explore every possibility, but at no point in time did we ever have any discussions with anybody.
LaFleur earlier today, I don't know how I feel about that. First of all, I don't know. I feel like they had to have a conversation. At no point, you and Brian Gutekunst sat down and I think we should. How do you feel about Malik Willis? What have you seen? What have you heard in the locker room? You had to have had a talk, right? Please tell me, please. Doesn't mean that he's going to communicate that in the press conference. He probably shouldn't because he wants to communicate confidence, strength. his new backup quarterback, Willis. God, I really hope they at least thought about it. And what I mentioned before we went to break, because some folks brought up Brian Gutekunst and his role in the situation that they find themselves in the Packers without Jordan Love now for a couple weeks. Let's say 3 weeks for the sake of conversation. This is the classic situation we draw up in sports talk to say, is your veteran or is your quarterback, your backup, good enough if Jordan Love, if Aaron Rodgers, if Patrick Mahomes has to miss a month, has to miss 3 weeks? Can they go and get you 1 win? Can they go and get you 2 wins in a month? I don't know that Malik Willis can do that. And if he can't, again, if they go through these next 3 weeks and they look like a nightmare, but wide receivers are getting open and they're running the ball and the defense is making plays, but Malik Willis can't complete a forward pass, I think that reflects really poorly on Brian Gutekunst, because now Jordan Love is coming back and I still feel really good about this team, right? If the rest of the team performed well in his absence, I feel great about this team. If Jordan Love comes back and starts slinging the pill, I feel like we wasted a year in a potential Super Bowl window. And that's really unforgivable in the NFL. Your thoughts? Who's under the most pressure in the absence of Jordan Love? Have fun with it. Make it your own. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this? Thanks for waiting.
Dylan.
Dylan?
Yep.
Welcome, Dylan. Where are you calling from, Dylan? I'm just curious.
Cottage Grove, Wisconsin.
Hell yeah, Cottage Grove. I think you're our first ever Cottage Grove caller. What's going on, Dylan?
I just want to first say I don't know if Jordan Love is actually going to be out 3 to 6 weeks. Like in the headline I saw on ESPN, it said Matt LaFleur mentioned that Malik Willis will start if Jordan Love can't play, but I swear I've been seeing like a bunch of different reports saying like 3 to 6 weeks or 4 to 6 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks. So I don't know if he's actually going to be out more than 3 weeks. I don't expect the Colts game to go good, but if we lose to the Titans, I could see Matt LaFleur the defense coordinator, Jeff Hafley, being under the hot seat because, the Bears were able to beat the Titans without an offensive touchdown.
Yep.
So, and also that would tie into LaFleur too. Like, if our offense can't get it done, what's going on here?
So I'm with you about the Titans thing. I don't know if I feel good or bad about the Colts. Dylan, thank you for listening and calling in Cottage Grove. On the Love timeline, this is probably what those articles were referencing. This is the beginning of Matt LaFleur's presser today.
Is Malik going to be the guy as you go forward here, and are you preparing him to be the starter?
Yeah, if Jordan's not cleared, then we'll start Malik and Sean will be the backup.
So that's the language that people said, well, what do you mean if he's not ready? And Matt LaFleur pointed out, we're giving him member opportunity to get ready. He's working really hard to get ready. I think that's just Coach Fugazi, just throwing uncertainty into the air about this, that, and the other thing. I would expect him to miss a couple weeks. I don't think he's going to play this weekend. Hopefully it's 2-3 weeks. I think it'll probably be 3, maybe 4, if we're really lucky, maybe 2. But I'm kind of sitting 3 weeks, just reading the tea leaves, what I see, what I hear, and just that would be my best guess. My educated guess as a sports fan that's went through things like this before, I would guess 3 weeks, maybe 1 more. I'd be surprised if it's 2. I'd take it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 4. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Justin from Eau Claire.
Hey, Justin. What's going on?
Not much. I do want to shed, before I get into who's under the most pressure, I do want to shed some light. This is probably the best 3 to 4 week stretch that Love could miss just based on teams that they're playing. We've got the Colts, Titans, Vikings, and Cardinals, I believe.
Yeah.
And 2 of those games are at home at least. So
yes.
Not a terrible stretch.
No Detroit, no Chicago, and the one divisional game that they have is at home. That is a good point. Now, if he misses more than 3 weeks, that starts to change. But if it's 3 weeks, you might be right. This might be the 3-week window that I'd pick of the whole schedule now that I look at it.
And then under pressure, I'm kind of in agreement with Dylan, the last caller. I think it is Hafley in that defense because I'm going to give them a pass after week 1, even though they looked kind of bad. There was a crappy field, subpar officiating, and the Eagles are a great team with a great offense. But if they cannot stop 2 of these next 3 teams, then it starts to be, okay, maybe we need a change in coordinator. And then also Goot might get on the hot seat because he's wasted how many first-round picks on a defense that can't stop the Titans? If we can't stop the Titans, there's something seriously wrong.
Man, this Titans game. I love how far out over our skis we're getting. We're already putting Jeff Hafley under the microscope. If you let Will Levis light you up, this rules. God, I love sports talk. This is incredible. Thank you for the call, Justin. Thank you for listening up in Eau Claire. I'm all in on this. Now, this stretch of the schedule, I agree. Like, I'm trying to find another 3-game schedule. I think it's the best three-week window he could have missed. There's only one divisional game, and it's at home, and it's Sam Darnold. So maybe you get some good variance. Maybe Sam Darnold throws you a couple turds, as he's liable to do, and maybe you can steal that game. And the Colts being at home and Anthony Richardson's, only second start of the year and really doesn't even have a full season under his belt yet. That's maybe winnable too. At Tennessee, I think it's going to be tough. That's a nasty defensive front. That's a tough ask for Malik Willis, and that's him going home. Although maybe revenge game. I don't know. Maybe that could go both ways. Maybe he's in his feelings, or maybe he's, got revenge on his mind. I don't know. We'll talk about that after the Colts game. But I love that we're already circling the Titans game. This rules hard. Yeah, a little breathing room for the defense. I agree. You're not going to shut out the Eagles. A.J. Brown's really good. Saquon's really good. They got a couple turnovers. The offense did very little with. Still 30 points and 400 yards. That's tough to rectify. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
This is Dan in La Crosse.
Dan in La Crosse. What's up, Dan?
Yeah, educate me a little bit. Is Clifford still there?
Yeah, Clifford, I believe, is on the practice squad.
Yeah. How long have they had both of these quarterbacks?
Well, so they cut both Clifford and Pratt on roster cutdown day, traded for Willis, and then signed Clifford back to the practice squad.
Yeah. Okay. So I give you a guy that knows the offense, that has worked a lot more with the receivers than a guy that's still trying to pick it up and learn it. That's even more talented. Give me the guy that doesn't have to think, just has to perform, rather than the guy that's got to think and perform.
So you want Clifford over Willis this weekend?
I would. I mean, you got to get, I don't know, at least give him a short leash and get Clifford in there. If he starts struggling with the plays, knowing where people are, for one.
I wonder, I'm just not, thank you, Dan and La Crosse, for the call. I just got one more caller I want to get to. I am not a Sean Clifford believer. You got to place a lot of value in knowledge of the system and chemistry with the wide receiver. Like, you got to believe that that's really important. Because I think Sean Clifford stinks, to be honest. Now, we have a lot of reason to believe that Malik Willis stinks too. But Malik Willis, unlike Sean Clifford, didn't stink in college. There just might be some tools and some traits in there that Matt LaFleur can harness for a couple of weeks. Maybe. And if you can scheme guys wide open, if you can scheme Jaden Reed open, if you can scheme Christian Watson open, well, then chemistry. We're not throwing back shoulders here. We're trying to hit layups. That should be the goal, and to run the ball. And Malik Willis should be able to do that. Matt LaFleur said it's Malik Willis. That's that. Dan says Sean Clifford, so I guess you guys will have to agree to disagree. Let's take one more call, then we'll take our break. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Mike in Eau Claire.
Mike in Eau Claire. What's going on, Mike?
This was a classic Packers recipe for a loss. They got 2 early turnovers, and it was 6-0. You got to be up 14-0.
I mean, at least 10-0. Like, you got to get one touchdown, at least one.
At least it changes the whole trajectory of the game. I think we win if we get at least, like you said, at least one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just look at the final score. Look at the way that it shaked out. What did the Packers lose by? 4, 5? Yeah. I mean, you get an extra 2 or 3 points. You go about the game differently. And when they kick the field goal, then to bring it within 5. At that point, I'm not going to do the mental math, but it changes the script of the game. That's 4 extra points you buy yourself for down the road. Yeah.
I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to go with the offense. It's a combination. Matt LaFleur, the offense, all the offensive players, and Malik Willis. That's who they need to do better than that, man. I know the defense gave up 30, but when you kick the defense in the face like that, after they got you 2 turnovers to start the game and you got 6 points, it's disheartening as a defensive player.
So that's a really good call, Mike, because I agree with you. Even when I think of Seattle, I think of in 2014, of course, not that I should need to, but I think of Seattle in 2014 when the defense is getting you opportunities, you're not doing anything with them. And it almost puts an ominous feeling over the game. You almost start to think, well, that's going to come back to haunt us, as if you're speaking it into existence, right? Or I think of, we don't have to go back 10 years to the most discussed football game in Wisconsin sports talk. Just think of the Lions game last year, Thursday Night Football, the Oktoberfest game. Watch that in lacrosse. I remember. Think of that game where the defense got a turnover early off of Jared Goff, and the Packers, I think, went backwards and kicked the field goal. It's like, so weirdly, a good thing. The defense forcing the turnover, it almost starts to feel like a bad thing because you're like, man, that's not good enough. It's going to come back to haunt you. That's a really good call, Mike. Classic recipe for a Packers playoff loss. 2 turnovers early, and you're only up 6-0. I couldn't set it better myself. Tale as old as time. Thank you, Mike. When we come back, talk a little bit more about who's under pressure. I can give you some of my takes. And we've cleared up the phone lines. If everyone has said their piece on the Packers today, I kind of want to listen to this Phil Longo audio at the end because there's something going on. There is something afoot in Madison down at UW. I don't know that Fickle and Longo are on the same page, so maybe we can make sense of that as well. More of the Wisco Sports Show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 5 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 4 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
It's the Wisco Sports Show. A couple of texts here. We'll get back to the calls. We're going to wrap up the show with a comment from Phil Longo earlier today, but we're talking Packers right now. Chippewa John. It's a badass name. Says, I heard the Packers were interested in Ryan Tannehill. Is that true? It is not true, apparently. Diana Rossini first reported that, and then Tom Pelissero came out and was like, no. They haven't reached out. And then Matt LaFleur earlier today said, no, we haven't reached out to anybody. Those are conversations that we just haven't had. Which internally, I bet they've talked about it, but I do believe that they haven't reached out. Brent in Arena says, Quay Walker, Eric Stokes, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness. These guys ever going to start playing like first-round draft picks? So far, the return on these guys have been weak. Yeah, I have no pushback. I believe, and again, I have it on one of the graphics here if you're watching the live stream, Lucas Van Ness played 25% of the snaps last night. He played less than Enigbare, less than Carl Brooks. I know those are two different. Well, no, Enigbare and Lucas Van Ness the same positions, but I don't know. I'm just through one game, of course. We have a show to do today to talk about the one game we've seen, but I was hoping for a little bit more from Lucas Van Ness. Eau Claire Chris says, I would have been more confident with the Tulane guy being quarterback than Willis. I wouldn't be, but I don't know that that's an indictment or an endorsement on any of them. I'm just not sure any of them are any good. 608-321-1670. Let's take a call. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Eric on I-90.
I knew it, Eric. Congrats to your Vikings, Sam Darnold. That Darnold character didn't look too bad.
He did not look too bad, and as long as we play the Giants every week, we're going to have a very successful season.
They suck. Did you not get sad for Giants fans just watching that, Eric?
I watched both games. The Packer game and the Viking game. I listened to the radio in the first half and watched the second half. And you were exactly right on the second half of the Viking game. The Giants just gave up.
Yeah.
And Minnesota kind of was like, well, we're going to give up too. I mean, it was that second half was really not very entertaining.
They punted. Dable punted down like 28-6 on a 4th and 5. He just gave up.
Yeah, they gave up. And hey, Sam Darnold, I think our coach O'Connell has shown that he can put a lot of quarterbacks in there and get some production, but 12 for 12, that's all Darnold. I got to give him some credit. I do. Right? 12 for 12, you're throwing pretty good.
And I think there will be games where he has a couple of – that's Darnold, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm kind of hoping that happens against the Packers at Lambeau in a couple weeks. So, well, selfishly, because I think that's an opportunity the Packers could actually win a game even with a backup quarterback.
Could be.
It's not personal.
The defense played a little bit better, too. Defense. But, again, it was the Giants. So, we'll take that all with a grain of salt. The Green Bay game, I listened to that on the road, too. I listened to the first half on the radio.
You going up north?
And no, I was going out to my secret lair where I fight crime on the weekend.
Gotcha.
When they got 2 turnovers inside the 20, then I was like, I didn't think Philadelphia had a chance in this game. Because I had bought what you'd been selling for the past 3 or 4 months, right? That this is an unstoppable force, and this defense is going to be awesome. Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And then I thought to myself, my God, Philadelphia could win this game if they can, hang in like this. So that was kind of a telltale sign, wasn't it? I know you didn't watch the game, but you get the ball inside the 20 2 times. You can't punch it in. Then, I thought, and at the end, it was a really close game.
It was
a really close game. It was a glass half full game, right, Grant?
It was.
Some good things. Some bad things.
It could be a glass half full game, but that's a game that they could have won. That's a win that they could have banked, and now they're embarking on maybe the next month without their starter, and that's a game that you can't get back.
Right.
That's the tough part.
Right.
If Love was healthy, I would agree. I'd be like, wow, that was a really exciting week 1 game. Cool game down in Brazil. Right. It's a bummer the Packers lost, but the season's off and running. Let's get excited. But it's hard to be that way. I'd be talking about how Jaden Reed is awesome because he is awesome, but it's hard to celebrate that today. Yeah.
Right. And, all the penalties and stuff, that'll clear itself. Everybody had a lot of penalties, all over the place.
Yeah.
That'll clear itself up.
Yep.
And so I would say that glass half full. Jair, though, I got to disagree with you on Jair. His problem is he was on my team. The thing I always see from him is it's always about him. And taking that ball out was about Jair. It wasn't about the Green Bay Packers.
Okay.
And I think he's got to have a little bit more. To take that ball out, there's more bad things that can happen.
Agreed.
Especially when such a good thing happens. Right?
Yep.
And you're gonna get it knocked out from a guy from behind. Is where you're going. I was watching him. I'm like, boy, this guy's gonna come up and knock it right out on him. And that would be a try. So that's what I would say about him. I'm glad the Packers have him, and I'm glad the Packers love him because that guy's about him, and he ain't a team player. But that's just my 2 cents.
I think that's a fair 2 cents. I think that's a fair 2 cents, Eric. I don't think I could disagree with you on any of that. Eric, on any everyone. I just think the reaction today to Jair has been not representative of his performance. And he might be more about him than he is about the Green Bay Packers. I don't know him. I'm not in the locker room. I don't cover the team, so I can't really speak to that accurately. I know Mike Clemens has at some points been skeptical of him. So again, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong. I don't want to say things that are completely off base and say, well, he's a selfish guy because I'm not in that locker room. I don't cover the team. I don't know. I think people are crushing him a little bit for bringing the ball out. Oh, he screwed him. Well, the difference is like 4 yards. What if he houses it? He did that a lot in college too. You know what I mean? So I didn't really have a massive problem with it. I'd prefer him to kneel it down. But it's not like he got tackled at the 4. I don't know that means that the ends justify the means, but there was one other thing with Jair that I wanted to say, and I can't remember now. So here's what we'll do. We'll take one more call, and then maybe it'll hit me. 608-321-1670. Wisco Sports Show. Who's this?
Hey, Grant. It's Tom in La Crosse. How you doing?
Hey, Tom. I'm doing good. How are you?
Not too bad. Real quickly, I will, because I know we got some stuff you probably want to get to. I sent a text too, but maybe you read this, but the Lambeau Field and the Packer faithful got to get loud the next 3-4 home games if Love is out for any extensive period of time here, and just make it an impossible place for teams to come and play.
Yeah.
I'm out.
That's a perfect caller, Tom. I don't know why I said Dan. Tom, thank you, Tom in La Crosse. I agree. Put the pressure on the fans, right? Make that a really difficult place to play for Malik Willis in his second, or not Malik Willis, but for the Colts starting quarterback, Anthony Richardson. My brain's on a side quest. I'm trying to remember what I was going to say about Jair, but I can't remember. So let's take our final break. We'll come back, and I have some Phil Longo audio that I want to play for you. This is wild. Final segment next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 3 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 2 minutes. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 1 minute. The Wisco Sports Show will resume in 30 seconds.
You know, when you have such high expectations, it can be disappointing sometimes when you're not laying 45 on the board every week. But the focus is just doing what we have to do to win each individual game. And if we stack enough together, you wind up putting together the season that you want. We have utilized our statistics in the past to recruit and to attract these skilled players because we want them to come to Wisconsin and continue that, you know, that whole process offensively, but nothing replaces winning. And if we're going to be a little less explosive or a little more conservative or a little more efficient to win a game, that's what we're going to do. Whatever it takes to win the next football game is our approach. I think fans love seeing points and they love seeing big plays. I think any of them would trade those for wins just about any day of the week. And I'm here to please Coach Fickle, and this staff is here to put an offense on the field that helps us win the games. You would hope that the fans enjoy winning more than anything else, and that's the only goal that we have in preparation for each week.
Something doesn't smell right there. Something does not smell right there. That's Phil Longo earlier today. That's straight from the horse's mouth. The horse being Zach Heilprin and his mouth being his tape recorder. That's weird. That's odd. Hey, I know fans love explosive plays, and in the past we've used those statistics to recruit players. And we love the flash, and we love the... I know that the exciting, we all want the exciting offense, but I'm here to please Luke Fickle, Coach Fickle, whatever he wants. Whatever's best for winning games. Something smells weird there. Something smells weird there. And this is not me being gaslighting, pot-stirring, shock jock radio guy. I don't need to be that today. The Packers, Jordan Love's out a couple weeks. Like, this show's going to write itself the rest of the week. I don't need to. You think I need to drum up Phil Longo drama? You think I need this? Not this week. In July, maybe, sure. Not this week. This is interesting. There's something there. He said, man, I'm here to do whatever it takes. I'm here to please Coach Fickle. Can I get that part one more time? Let's see if I can find it.
Nothing replaces winning. And if we're going to be a little less explosive or a little more conservative or a little more efficient to win a game, that's what we're going to do. Whatever it takes to win the next football game is our approach. I think fans love seeing points and they love seeing big plays. I think any of them would trade those for wins just about any day of the week. And I'm here to please Coach Fickle. And this staff is here to put an offense on the field that helps us win the games. You would hope that the fans enjoy winning more than anything else, and that's the only goal that we have in preparation for each week.
I smell something weird there. That's bizarre. That's weird. Am I the only one who thinks so? I think that's odd. Maybe we can talk more about this tomorrow. Maybe we could talk about it on Bill's show. Vagabond John said, what did I miss? Vagabond John, I think there's discord between Luke Fickell and Phil Longo. I think Phil Longo wants to open it up. I think he wants to take some shots, wants to have some fun. And I think Luke Fickell's saying, no, keep a lid on it. The focus is on winning games, but we watched the product last year. I watched the product week 1 against Western Michigan. To a degree, I watched the product against South Dakota. That game should have been a little bit closer. And I brought that up with Zach today when I was talking to him, and he poo-pooed it a little bit. It's like, come on, it's South Dakota. Yeah, but if they would have kept running the ball, if they would have went for it on 4th down a couple of times, like, I don't know. That game was close. Closer than the final score would indicate. So the idea, well, we're here to win games. Well, you're barely beating Western Michigan, and I thought the South Dakota game was pretty close. So winning. I'm here to please Coach Fickell. Interesting. That's it. Enjoy my